Hi, I'm Charlotte Boyer.
I am Dr. Negar Partow.
In each episode, we're going to take 10 minutes to look more closely at what's happening in the Middle East geopolitics, focusing on one area at a time and unpacking it in more depth. In this episode, we're going to turn our attention to Iran. It's been a busy few weeks in Iran, so let's start with what's happening inside Iran right now.
A very interesting question. Iran is experiencing a nationwide protest. It was triggered by years of economic crisis, corruption, political repression, and also gender inequality, ethnic inequality. The latest spike is linked to deadly crackdowns and sharp price shock. So security forces are using mass arrests, internet shutdowns, and lethal force, with human rights groups estimating very high deaths, some of about 12,000 to 15,000 deaths, and large number of people being detained and disappeared. Now, protest slogans are not about reforming the system anymore. They increasingly reject the entire Islamic Republic and directly target the supreme leader's authority and the whole structure of the government.
So you've mentioned a few things that are different this time, but in what other ways does this protest wave differ from the previous ones?
There are a couple of reasons for that. So the protests are more geographically spread than many previous waves. In previous waves of protests, we had protests in major cities and not necessarily in all the small cities or rural areas, but now it is very widespread. It's now involving small towns as well as big cities and drawing in a mix of workers and students and women and marginalized regions. So in the last round of protests, which was Women Life Freedom 2022, it was mainly the Kurdish areas. Some of the smaller cities were not very active, and also the bazaar, which is the marketplace in Iran, didn't shut down. This time the uprising started from the bazaar. So the demand go beyond the specific economic grievances. I think people explicitly call for regime change and a new political order, which marks a quantitative shift from earlier reformist or narrowly economic protests. So it has always been, okay, we want reform, please do the reform. And then the reform never worked out. So now this time is that this system is beyond report. So so people want a major significant change. Now the regime is showing both harsher repression and deeper sign of fatigue and fragmentation too. Probably you heard about they bringing soldiers and militias from Hashd al-Shaabi, Hezbollah, and Hamas and other groups, because they have quite a lot of strains in using forces. But this shift raises question about how long this current model of control can be sustained. I don't think you can save a government or a state by having military forces, heavily armed cars in the streets from morning to night.
So Iran has a large diaspora. How are they responding this time? Are there any differences in the way that they're supporting the people inside the country? And what's the sort of strengths and weaknesses in supporting people from afar?
Since the Islamic Republic has gained power in Iran in 1979, almost 8 million Iranians migrated to other parts of the world. They have the largest diaspora that was taken in the history of Iran, has taken place in the last 47 years. This is from the biggest Jewish communities in the Middle East belong to Iran after Israel, and that is all have gone to other countries. Christians, converts, any people, all the intellectuals, as students, everybody who could ran away. So this time the diaspora is very vast, and it has organized large demonstrations. As you can see, they have media campaigns, they have been lobbying effort with the United Nations as well as other international organizations and their own government. They have lobbied in North America, Europe, and everywhere. So they try to keep Iran on the international agenda. And I think this organization makes a significant difference than other times. Now, exiled group and individuals, they're pushing for targeted sanctions and human rights violations. They have high posts and high profile posts around the world, and they really want to change and help people inside. That unity between the people inside of Iran and the diaspora had never happened. So this is a major change. They are now has convinced the international community that they need to have a stronger monitoring of the abuse and documentation. So there are many activities that the people of Iran inside Iran cannot do, but the diaspora is filling up those gaps. Although the diaspora is fragmented, we're going to talk about it later on, but so they are monarchists and Republicans and secularists and leftists and ethnic movements, and other often disagree in a lot of different aspects of the future of Iran's political system. But for now, they have seemed to be very united, and they are pushing. So we can see lots of different changes happening.
So, who has a stake in the survival of the Islamic regime?
Very good question. So inside Iran, of course, there's security apparatus. So this is the Islamic Republic Guardian Corps, or Sepah Pastaran, Basij, intelligence services, and economic networks that they have. They tie them together. They benefit from the current system. They also benefit from the sanction because they can have access to contracts, they have smuggling routes, and they also have very off-budget revenues, which means they say they go around the sanctions, which means they have some satellite small companies in different places, and through that they do quite a lot of money laundering. They can bring a lot of contract for themselves rather than to distribute it nationally. But regionally and globally, some actors like Russia and China, they value Tehran as a partner. They see it as a campaign against some form of imperialism. So there is a reminiscence of the Cold War language too. They use Tehran to create pressure on Western countries, particularly the United States. And they are Iran's key, especially China is Iran's key energy and arms customer. So sudden change collapse and sudden regime collapse would threaten China's strategic investment and Russia's strategic investment. We will talk about these two in more details later on when we think about the regional and the global aspects of it. But in the global aspects, some Western and regional governments also can benefit from them because partly there is a strong feminist narrative in Iran's new movement. And the other part is that they somehow are feared of regional instability, even if they are publicly critical of regimes, economic or support of terrorism in the region. They believe that the collapse of the regime can significantly hinders the economic development, and to a degree so. Most of the developments that we see in Turkey, in the southern countries in the southern shores of the Persian Gulf, they have prospered because Iran has been under sanction, and everybody who wanted to deal with the Middle East had to go through somehow geographically through this region. So it means that the collapse of the regime definitely would stop or slow down the rate of their economic progress.
Right, before we get too deep into that part, we'll end it there from setting what's happening at the moment. And in the next episode, we'll look at the future, the scenarios of what could happen next, and what the implications of regime collapse could look like in more depth.
Thank you very much for today. It was a great conversation. Thank you, Charlotte.